Dr. V. Premalata. She pursued her undergraduate in BSc Biology at the University of Madras. She then went on to do her teaching degree in the University of Madras. Taking a keen interest in Sanskrit, she then studied masters in Sanskrit with Karnataka Open University. She pursued her MPhil, which was on Gorakshanata's Amanask Yoga, which is a unique treatise that explains yoga, which is benefit of mind. She continued her studies with a doctorate in Sthala Vrakshas in the Puranas, a biosocial study. Her focus on research is mainly in different fields of biological science from ancient Sanskrit treatises.
Suswagatam. Welcome back to UGC lecture series in Sanskritam. We were talking about the layout of the garden in our last episode. We will be continuing with the layout of the garden. So, Upavana Prakriya, that is the layout of the garden. This topic continues today with the fauna that belongs to Upavana. Peacocks and Hamsa take the prime of place as enhancing the gardens. Water sources like lakes help in watering the plants as well as decorating the garden. Water sports are also possible with water sources. And I am going to introduce a new topic, nutrition of plants, in this episode. So, now we go to Upavana Prakriya. Taru Vitapa Lata Nikunja Ramya Virachita Kandarasano Ganda Shaila Vividha Mani Guha Vichitra Dhatuhu Kvachitapi Parvatika Vihara Hetuhu. The place should be enhanced with trees, that the garden should be full of trees, dense foliage, creepers and bowers. Hillocks with caves and tunnels should be constructed with a variety of colored stones belonging to multi-hued ores. Such a place is worthy of strolling around and enjoying. Different tunnels and hillocks and with different colored granites will be very beautiful, and children like to play around the tunnels. And what we see today in our gardens was already there in ancient India with multicolored granites. Architects always planned such structures with aesthetics. Now we go to the fauna. The fauna of the garden is peacock here according to the poet, because the peacock is a very beautiful bird. Keka ninada shubhagaha sada samshrasita tahayah tandavena tad uddeshan mandayanti shikhandinah. Since the place always reverberates with the screaming, a peacock screams of peacocks, the snakes are frightened of the sound. So, it serves dual purpose. One is the peacock always decorates the garden because of its blue-green plumage. When it spreads its plumage, it looks so stunning, and the onlookers are happy looking at the peacock dance. Because of this, the peacocks have to be freely left around in the garden. Then the second purpose that the peacock serves is frightening away the snakes. The snakes will not come if the peacocks are present there. So, the people can stroll freely all around the garden without the fear of the snakes. So, the reaction of the peacock triggers ecstasy. The reaction of the snakes triggers ecstasy in the peacocks, and they dance with glee looking at the snakes turning away and running away, makes the peacocks so proud, so happy that they spread their unique blue-green plumage and give a stunning feast to the eyes of the onlookers, the Sahridayaha, and this renders a scenic beauty to the place. So, now you see ancient paintings on peacocks and the beautiful damsels sitting around the peacocks, conversing with the peacocks. And now we come to another member of the fauna, the Hamsa. The pond adds charm to the garden. Now we can look at the ponds and the lakes in the garden. Vilambino yatra tatadruma vapuhu vilokayanti prasavekshanaihi iva samam dishantah kalahamsa bhushana kvachit bhavet pushkarini manorama. So, the ponds add a lot of charm to the garden. The trees on the banks of the pond perceive such beauty as if the pendulous branches have produced eyes. Prasavekshanaihi iva vapuhu vilokayanti. Here the poet employs figures of speech, that is alankaras. You see utpreksha here being employed, and the pendulous branches, when they look into the pond or the lake below, they see their own reflection on the lake, and they think that it is another set of trees there with the flowers et al. So, here the poet says that they look through the eyes of the flowers, prasava ikshanaihi iva, they look into the reflection. So, this is the alankara employed very deftly by the poet, and one can deduce here that the eyes are the flowers produced from the branches. And the next beautiful thing that adds aesthetics is the graceful swans adorn the pond with their presence. As you all know, swan is a beautiful bird. It is pure white in color with a beautiful body and a graceful gait. Poets have always used swans for comparing the gait of the graceful ladies, and even Adi Shankara has told that Devi has the most beautiful gait, that even the swans have to learn the gait from the walk of the Devi, that is the Pada Vinyasa of the Devi. The swans will have to learn how to walk gracefully. So, in another place also he has used the example of the swan. Bhajehe hamsadvantvam kimapi mahatam manasacharam. So, a pair of hamsas give a lot of tranquility, and so pure white and so beautiful. The shape of the swan is breathtakingly beautiful, that Bhavana Kala Hamsana Jahati. Devi walks so gracefully, but the swans do not walk so gracefully as the Devi. So, they will have to learn the Padavinyasa from Devi. So, with these things around, walking around, the Sahridayas are happy perceiving the swans. So, this is the picture of the aquatic flora and the swans. You see the Hamsadvandvam here, the pair of swans on the lake, and then here you see Radha and Krishna, you see the peacocks and the flowers in the lake, the lotuses in the lake, and this is a very beautiful garden scene. Then we come to the other water source, Niryadaha Salilam Sukhavataranam Tireshu Pushpadrumam Kujat Daksha Vihangamam Sataranim Atyayatam Dhirgikam Kuryat Tatra Samulasad Kamalini Patra Ankura Shamalam Shamalochana Mallikam Vidadhati Nilot Palani Kvachita. Here the planning of the area around water is also described. The water should be bereft of any aquatic creatures and easily accessible. One should get into the water if he likes to sport in the water. The trees that line the banks are with flowers, freshly bloomed flowers. The birds coo melodiously around the pond in which there are boats. So, water sports is possible with the deep lakes, and people can sit in the boat and enjoy playing lute and other musical instruments, conversing with each other, singing songs with a lot of mirth. So, here also with Shama Lochana Mallikam and Ankura Shamalam, we come to know that there are lots of bloomed lotuses around it, the dark sprouts of the leaves, and then we have the dark Nilotpalani. So, there is light and dark flowers and leaves and sprouts intermingling in the lake, so that it is a very colorful picture that the poet paints here. So, that is why he says Shama Lochana Mallikam, perhaps they are like the collyrium, the dark sprouts are like the collyrium around the beautiful lotuses, because lotuses are always compared with the eyes. And then Nilotpalani is a dark lily, and in contrast with the beautiful lotuses, the light pink and the white lotuses, it is a very colorful scene to behold. So, the fully blown lotuses intermingled with dark leaves is described, and the Nilotpala sporting dark petals strike a contrast with the light hued lotuses here. And so, we have all this, you can imagine any figure of speech with all these descriptions. And then you see the picture of the beautiful lady plucking all the lotuses from the lakes. And then there are a couple of ladies, perhaps friends, strolling around the garden, looking at the lakes, looking at the bloomed lotuses. These are ancient paintings. And in the garden we also expect some wells, because we need to drink water. We will be thirsty sporting around the water, and we need potable water. So, in ancient India, one has a lot of step wells that are constructed. These steps well are with a lot of architectural marvels, and sometimes you can go down the step well 3 or 4 tiers and with lot of intricate sculptures, and you can get the water, you can draw the water from there. In many places, even in Rajasthan, in many places there are many ornamented step wells. This is one such step well, and this is the ordinary well from which a lady is drawing water for a pilgrim. Upavanamiva vari madhyamagnam vimalataya pratibimbitam dadhana shashikara nikarena poriteva kvachit upaneyapayaha sukhaya vapi. There should be a well for potable water. The Upavana is reflected in the clear water, and it looks as if the Upavana is drowned in water. The moon's rays fill up the waters in the moonlit night. So, when the clear, crystal clear water, sheet of water reflects the moon on top of the sky, it looks as if the whole Upavana, all the trees, everything is getting reflected, as if the whole Upavana is drowned inside the water. Magnam, vari madhya magnam, as if it is drowned inside. So, it looks like the continuation of a Upavana in the water. So, here is the picture where the boats are all plying, and you can see the beautiful Hamsa, and the reflection being perceived by a lady, enjoyed by the lady in a moonlight night. Then we come to the buildings in the Upavana. Madhye tasmin shishira shikhari spardhi veshma pravatam gudopantam surabhi kusumaihi shakibhi namra shakaihi sthane sthane spatika dhavalam mandapam mandanarham kuryad kasminnapi cha kadali mandiram mandavayu. So, the buildings in Upavana compete with the autumnal clouds. In Sharad season, in autumn season, the clouds are all very clear, you can see the beautiful moon, and the buildings are competing with that. So, that means that they are high rise buildings, that they are competing with the autumnal clouds. The breeze carrying the fragrance from the densely weighed down foliage stealthily enter, wafting the floral scent. They take up all the scent from the flowers and they waft it through all the foliages, and there are mandapas, white like crystals, adorning the Upavana. The breeze enters the plantain groves, and the leaves of the plantain fan the gentle breeze. So, first the wind starts like the pravatam, that is, it is a forceful wind, and then gudopantam, stealthily they enter all the flowers, the foliage, and they take in all the fragrance of the flowers and the different leaves, aromatic leaves, and this perfumed wind flows through everything, and they come to the mandapas. There are mandapas littered throughout the garden. The mandapas are white like crystals. What a contrast between the dark foliage, and they adorn the Upavana, so that the strollers can sit and converse and talk and sing and enjoy. and the breeze enters the plantain groves. So, as it wafts the perfumes and comes to the plantain groves, the force has become almost mandavayu. So, it becomes very slow and it merely blows, and the leaves of the plantains and fan, and they become the gentle breeze. So, from Pravatam it becomes Mandavayu, and step by step the poet describes how the wind blows from place to place, from foliage to foliage, from tree to tree, and sthane spatika dhavalam mandapam, and through the mandapa to the Kadali Mandiram. This is a very natural sequence that the poet follows, and Swabhavokti is implied here. And even though a natural sequence, the poet describes it like a painting. So, now we go to the other verse. Kvachitabi kopam kuryat upavanadeshe subrishta salila bharam samsikta sakala vitapam baddham pashana sanchayahi paritaha. So, now we come to the importance of the wells. So, the onlookers, the Sahridayas, they have strolled the garden, they have taken some nap, or perhaps they have taken some rest in the mandapas, they have enjoyed the perfumed breeze, and now they are thirsty. Now, we should find some water for them. In the Upavana, a few places should have wells full of waters to the brim. The entire group of trees in the vicinity should be wet with water. The well should be surrounded by a platform constructed with a collection of stones. Here also we come across those beautiful stones, the granites in India, which make the platform for the Kupa also. Even the Kupa is constructed so beautifully that the onlookers enjoy the surrounding of the Kupa when they draw the water and drink the cool water and quench their thirst. Anjana musta ushiraihi sa naga koshataka amalaka churnaihi kataka phala samayuktaihi kupe yogaha pradatavyaha. The poet says there are some ingredients that should be thrown into the well. For what purpose? Let us see. Anjana, it is the ironwood tree, Musta is the cypress, and Ushira and Naga, Koshataka and Amla powders should be mixed with Kataka nut and added to the well. As you all know, these are all Ayurvedic herbs, and they are all good for the health, especially the Kataka nut is a special variety of nut. If you throw them in the water, they soak in the water and make the turbid water clean and clear. And of course, Musta is a tuberous or bulbous root, which has Ayurvedic qualities, which also enhances the water. Ushira, the cuscus roots, they give aroma to the water, at the same time they are very cooling and they are good for health, and Naga serves the same purpose, and Koshataka is the loofah, and Amla powders, as you know, are full of medicinal value, and also it gives a sweet taste to the water. So, this improves the quality of potable water. Since the muddy water gets crystal clear by the action of Kataka nuts, Ushira roots add aroma and a distinct flavor to water and quenches thirst. So, for the public, all the kupas were filled with such Ayurveda herbs, and the citizens enjoyed the water, and they can be also sprinkled onto the flora of the garden, because they are all Ayurvedic herbs and they help in the growth of the plants. Dual purpose. Kalusham katukam lavanam virasam salilam yadiva ashubha gandhi bhavet tad anena bhavati amalam surasam sa sugandhi gunaihi aparaihi cha yutam. So, what if you have murky water? Easy, it can be removed, because we have all the Ayurvedic ingredients with us. The murky water becomes clear, the sourness, saltiness, flatness of water are removed by the ingredients added to it. If the water emits a bad odor, that is also removed. The resultant water, after adding the above ingredients, is pure, tasty and fragrant, and it is entirely different from its previous state. So, you have the aromatic water with all the aromatic spices and the different herbs added to it, and the water also loses its flatness and it becomes very tasty, and there is no sourness, saltiness in that, and it becomes something like a sherbet. That is what we conclude by reading it. So, ancient Indians knew what to add to the water. So, all the special RO techniques are lost when you compare with this ancient poem. So, all the cleaning properties, all the different properties of water which are negative are removed and positive properties are added to the water, and it is better than any cleaning device that you have in modern days. Now, we go straight to plant nourishment. We will come back to divining the water later, because this follows the Bijotpatti and the Ropana Vidhanam. So, we will have to nourish the plants. So, we now come to plant nourishment. The prime object of plant sustenance is nutrition, and since the plants cannot go on their own, they cannot hunt for their food, they cannot get their food being permanently adhered to the earth. So, we will have to add manure, it becomes a must, since the yield has to be plenty, and our society being agrarian in the days of yore always depended on the plant kingdom, and we used different types of fertilizers. We will be studying about it later. When fertilizing was done during sowing the seeds and replanting them, Bijopti and Ropana Vidhanam, we came across that in our last episodes, and it has to continue in different ways. As the text explain, the production of immense produce with the right kind of manures. So, by adding the right kind of manure, the yield will be more, and let us see what we should add. And total organic farming was the order of the day, and it was cost worthy as the materials used were from the cattle as cow dung, excreta of various animals, milk, ghee, carcasses of animals, husks of grains and various herbs from the garden. A link between the heavenly bodies and the yield was established, and the careful observations of the constellations and the planetary movements determined the asterisms of best growth, and so on. Prophylactic methods of nutritive supplements was of top priority in those days. Plant tonics like Kunapa Jala was prepared with care that contained all the nutrients, and special nutrients for specific results like adding more aroma to flowers, stupendous yield of flowers and fruits, etc., regarding specific species of trees are discussed under this topic. And I have given you two cross references, Brihat Samhita volume 2 chapter 54 and Agni Purana chapter 281. There are other references, and these references are the same like the Upavana Vinoda. Then now we come to the first verse. Pala kusuma sampaduchita ropanato bhavati kevalat na yataha poshana vidhim ata sammata manokahanam ataha bakshye. Merely planting a tree will not suffice for plants to yield fruits and flowers. I am, that is the author saying, enumerating the methods of, so I am enumerating the methods of nutrition, says the author. Now, for want of time, we will be dealing with the different types of nutrition and how they must be given, and what type of trees should be given, what kind of nutrition, all that will be dealt with in the next episode. So, see you in the next episode. Now, let me summarize. The planning of the garden with fauna, pure white buildings or gazebos where the people relaxed was discussed in this episode, and the water sources like lakes, ponds, They were constructed aesthetically, and that was also discussed. The wells brimming with water with spices and herbs for healthy potable water in ancient India, and the herbs were enumerated, and there was an introduction of the nutrition of plants. Today's questions are: what do the layout of the garden contain? Why do we need birds in the garden? Write about the part played by water sources in garden. What are the spices that go into well water? And we will continue in the next episode with the nutrition of plants. Thank you.